Hey guys, what's up? I am back with another video. So in this video, we will be checking out the performance of Vivo V25 5G against the Vivo V23 5G. And the Vivo V23 5G is powered by Dimensity 920 5G SoC with a 12GB of RAM, while the Vivo V25 5G is powered by Dimensity 900 SoC with a 12GB of RAM as well. And both phones has a triple cameras on the back. We have 64 megapixel main camera on both phones, but we have optical image separation on the V25, which we don't find on the Vivo V23. Also, we have 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 2 megapixel macro on both phones. And the camera layout, it is much bigger on the new Vivo V25, and both phones has a color changing back, and the back on both phones is made up of glass, and the frame of the V23 5G is made up of aluminium, while the new V25 has a plastic frame because we don't have any antenna bands on the V25 5G. So on the bottom, no headphone jack on both these two devices, and still we have single speaker on both phones, no dual speakers on the new Vivo V25 5G, which is a really disappointing thing in this price range. So now let's quickly boot both of these phones up at the same time. Here we go. The logos came up first at the same time on both phones, and both phones is running on latest Android 13 with FunTouchOS 13. So very interesting to see which one is faster, new one or the old one. So the Vivo V23 5G is a tiny bit faster when it comes to booting up. We only have 1 second difference between these two devices when it comes to booting up. So everything's close up in the background, no application is running in the background. Also, we have same Wi-Fi network on both phones. And first application we have is the phone dialer, that is very similar on both phones. So next on the list is settings, that is little faster on the new one, and both phones has a 6.4 inch Full HD Plus AMOLED with 90Hz refresh rate, but we have dual 150 camera inside this big notch on the V23, while the new one has a single 150 camera with this U-shaped notch. And the 150 camera also downgrade on the new one. We have 32 megapixel selfie camera versus a 50 megapixel and a 8 megapixel ultra wide. So now let's go to the display, and both phones has a 90Hz refresh rate, so no difference in that area. Now let's open Amazon shopping with same Wi-Fi network. So the new one is a tiny bit faster. So let's see scrolling, and that is very similar on both phones. 90Hz is working absolutely fine. Now let's open this, and that one, it is very similar. Scrolling again feels really smooth. So now I'll check out some games application. Now let's see that how much difference between the Dimensity 920 versus the Dimensity 900. So now let's see Candy Crush Saga. Let's see we have a downgrade in the performance or not. So that is exactly the same on both phones. So now let's open Instagram, and that one very similar. So now let's see Pinout, that is also very similar. So now let's see Snapchat, that one faster on the V23. Now let's see Spotify, faster on the new one this time. And now let's see Subway Surfer. So V23 is a tiny bit faster, as you can see, half a second difference here. So let me show the speakers on both phones. First on the V23, there's a max volume of the V23. And here is a new one, V25. Yes, and the speakers, it is improved on the new one. Now let's see Temper 2, another game. Let's see in that game which one is faster, Dimensity 900 versus 920. So both phones is performing very similar, I would say. So again, same result, exactly the same performance. So now let's open this big game which is called as PUBG Mobile. This is the last game we have in this speed test. So the old Vivo V23 is a little faster, but it is a half a second difference. So both phones will give you a smooth graphics with extreme frame rate. So now let's opening up the Twitter. That one faster on the V23. And now let's open Edge, and that one it is very similar. Scrolling again, really smooth on both phones, no issue whatsoever. So last I'm launching the cameras on both phones, default camera application. Let's see which one is faster. So opening up the camera, and that is very similar on both phones. And both phones has a 64 megapixel main camera, but we have OIS on the new one. So now let's look at the front-facing camera. So, and the new one has a 32 megapixel selfie camera, while the old one has a 50 megapixel, and the new one has a little cooler look, while the old one has a warmer look. But I like the front-facing camera on the Vivo V25. Now check out internet browsing speed. I am using default Google Chrome on both phones. So wikipedia.org, that is very similar, and scrolling fees really smooth on both phones in the start, little jitters, and still I can see jitters on the V23 sometimes, but on the V25 I cannot see jitters right now. So now let's open this English, and similar, scrolling feels very smooth but little jitter I feel on the V23. So next on the list is Samsung.com, and that one it is very similar. Scrolling feels really smooth on both phones. So now check out RAM management. Both phones has a 12 GB of RAM, and both phones is running on the latest software version. So phone dialer still there, settings still there, Amazon shopping, let's see Candy Crush Saga still there, Instagram, let's see pin out, that got refresh on both phones, Snapchat, Spotify, Subway Surfer, and that got refresh as well. So RAM management looks very similar. Temper 2, refresh. Let's say PUBG Mobile also got refresh on both phones. So RAM management, it is not really good on both phones. Opening up the Twitter, Zedge, refresh. And last we're back to the internet browser where we left, and you can see. And guys, what I have to say regarding the apps opening speed, as you can see that, and the Vivo V23 and the Vivo V25 5G and both phones is performing very similar in SMS application as well as in games. I feel that the games it is a tiny bit faster on the Vivo V23 5G, but not a big difference at all. So in terms of the RAM device in that area, and both phones has a very similar RAM management performance. RAM management is not really good on both phones despite having a 12 GB of RAM, and the Vivo V23 5G has a 4300 mAh battery size with a 44 watt fast charging, while the new one has a 4500 mAh battery size with a 44 watt fast charging support. So thank you so much for watching this speed test. I hope you like this video. So leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribe to my channel for daily tech videos like this, and follow me on Instagram and Twitter as well. And I will see you in my next video. Peace out.